Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here tonight with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, David, how are you doing tonight?
Good, Bruce. Big game. 3-2 Oilers win. I think the grade A shots in this one were 18-7, Bruce. 18-7. You normally expect the Oilers to get about 4 or 5 goals and Nashville to get 2, but Nashville's goalie put on quite a show tonight, actually, and kept the game close.
It was no Sorokin from Tuesday night. Jack was saying he was just as good as Sorokin, and I beg to differ. They just pummeled Sorokin with grade A's, 5 alarms from all the top players. McDavid had, I don't know what our final count was. I had him up to 19. I think he knocked a couple off the sheet there.
17. That's still, I think, a record, Bruce, for when we've been recording
He was all over it, right?
Yeah. Tonight, the Oilers, the 5 alarm shots, which are the most dangerous shots, were actually just 5-4 for the Oilers. Mm-hmm. So the Oilers had a lot of good shots on Wedgwood, but not the highest quality that Sorokin faced. So that's partly why this game wasn't so out of control, but it got close in the end, and we'll talk about that. In our 2 good things, 2 bad things, and 2 numbers podcast, Bruce. Because we usually have you go first, but because there's a little bit of chronological order to deal with here, I'll go first with my good thing, and that was Connor McDavid's 1,000th point. And I don't think you could have drawn the goal up any better than it was. It was the 3 friends, and after the game, Connor McDavid, in quite an emotional speech to the fans. I don't know if you saw it, but he said,
fans? No, I didn't see the fans. I heard the one at the podium after with the little reporters.
Well, I think, there was one on the ice. And he just said, we 3 guys. He was talking about the overtime goal, but it was also the first goal.
Right.
He said we grew up together. Mm-hmm. We grew up on this ice in front of you guys, and it was kind of moving. But it was these 3 players are integral. Obviously, absolutely integral to this franchise. And to see them come together, Nurse made a very nice play to start it off. Actually, he batted the puck out of the air, and then made the stretch pass to Draisaitl, who went in there and had a clear shot. And maybe if McDavid hadn't been going for his 1,000th point, he might have just shot it because he was in a really good position to shot. But it was kind of fitting in an odd way, because usually it's McDavid setting up Draisaitl for the executioner shot, that harpoon of a one-timer. The Draisaitl launches all the time on net and scores so often on. But tonight it was the opposite way. And I honestly can't remember McDavid kind of scoring on an executioner shot off a Draisaitl pass on a 2-on-1 in all his previous 1,000 points. It may have happened, but I can't recall it, because he doesn't score that many goals on one-timer shots. First of all, he's probably got 5 or something like that, where where he rips it. But he did rip this one. And I thought he missed. I thought he missed the net. Like at first, I thought, did he fan on it? Did he miss the net? And I didn't. It happened so fast.
Second, eh?
Yeah, but man, did he drill that in the net. It was a beautiful finish from McDavid. He was on his off wing, and he just drilled it in off a great pass from Draisaitl. So the 3 friends came together.
Great pass from Nurse to Draisaitl.
Off a great pass from Nurse. And now the only question is, Bruce, how many points? They were asking this after the game. How many points is McDavid going to get in his career? There's only one player with more than 2,000 points in the NHL history, Wayne Gretzky, who's got more than 2,600.
More than 2,800.
Is that what it is?
2,857.
Wow.
Unless you also include playoffs, in which case it's 3,239.
I always think they should kind of include playoffs, but they don't.
I've been on that bandwagon or that soapbox for decades, but
yeah,
as as sort of not the one and only record, but a sort of an equivalent record. When they're counting Messi's career goals, they count the goals he scores for various competitions, right? Anyway.
Yeah, if this was like I think in European football, they count just goals wherever you scored them.
Yeah,
Like if you got
unless they're
1,000
friendlies,
goals,
but
all competition. Yeah, pretty much.
Mhm.
And I wonder how much Gretzky would be ahead of Ovechkin if they included playoff goals.
Well, he has 1,000. Gretzky has 1,016
Uh-huh.
NHL goals, so he's actually got 1,000 goals. But it's an unrecognized number. He also scored 100 goals in a single season, 83, 84, and that too is an unrecognized number because it
Maybe they
includes
should.
regular season and playoffs.
Maybe they should. Of course, that if you start to get distorted, if you start to count Olympics, Canada
Yeah, but
Cups,
no,
World Cups.
I think playoffs and regular season is pretty legit. And Gretzky's lead over Ovechkin is substantially more because he scored 122 goals in the playoffs, and Ovi's only got what, 60 or, I mean, he's got a lot, but he hasn't got 122.
We'll
But
make that point if
I'm
Ovechkin catches
biased.
them. We'll make.
Oh, I'm already making it long before Ovechkin catches them, saying, well, he's really behind, they're not by 43 or whatever today's number is, but far, far more than that. But
Well done, Bruce. All right. All right. We got to get our narrative.
Me and my
Oilers,
numbers, my narrative, and
our Oilers
my
positive
my
narratives.
Oilers positive narrative. Absolutely, absolutely. Someone's got to push our team. Might
It's
as
not
well
going to
be
be
us.
Stan Fischler. It's got to be us.
No,
All
it's not going to be Stan Fischler.
Stan, I made a comment recently about the Oilers being better than the Islanders in the 1980s, and Stan's been taking shots on me on Twitter ever since. He's taken a couple shots at me since then.
Ovi's. Oh yeah, that's Fischler. Yeah, he's still he must be 90 now. Is he? He's still
92.
acerbic as ever. Yeah.
Oh, I think he's great. Honestly,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
just such a
Well, he's
character.
a character for sure.
Yeah.
Ovi's got 72 career goals in the playoffs, so Wayne's got 50 more than him. So when Ovi catches Wayne's regular season mark, he'll be still 50 behind on the true career accomplishment.
Well said, Bruce, and entirely convincing. And
Hey, I'd rather have playoff goal than a regular season one. I don't know about you.
Well,
I think they're
exactly.
more
Maybe
valuable.
we should double the count for the playoff
More
goals or
valuable.
something.
Yeah.
All right, Bruce, what's your good thing?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go with the other goal that the three buddies combined on in overtime to decide this thing in Oilers' favor. Fourth time in 5 games this year that they've won a game that went to overtime, and each time they decided it in overtime. This was the slowest by far of the 4 Oiler wins. It took them 2.5 minutes. So not quite as.
I was worried.
Yeah. Usually they get her done in the first minute or so, but and this overtime was not the masterpiece that we saw on Tuesday night, where Edmonton did everything right in overtime. They just dominated puck possession and they tired out the defenders and made a very brilliant line change that enabled 3 fresh, great players to come onto the ice against 3 flagging opponents, and they made quick work of them. But all of them made the point of raving about the shift that the guys had to set that up. Anyway, tonight was a little bit more topsy-turvy than that, and there was a fairly dangerous chance on Edmonton's net just before the game winner, and Calvin Pickard made a save, instantly dropped the puck on the ice and did the old Mike Smith chip it to Connor McDavid for overtime breakaway. Remember when Smith did that in San Jose that one time, and it was primary assist on the
what a
overtime
pass that
winner?
was.
Yeah, well, Pickard did the exact same thing, except for Mr. Referee decides at the millisecond that he's had the puck in his glove between catching it and going for the pass is long enough to blow the whistle. And so the ref gets roundly booed, as he deserved, in my opinion. I thought, that was a play on kind of play. And you know how long it took him to score from the face-off in their end from that whistle? 9 seconds.
Just
basically 180 feet score.
The hockey gourds.
Yeah. Draisaitl won the face-off. McDavid jumped in to help with, kind of the winger win. He chipped it up to Nurse. And McDavid was sort of the back guy. Nurse took off, and he fed it up to Draisaitl. And I was absolutely 100% sure Draisaitl was not going to drive the net or try and feed it to Nurse, that he was going to pull up and wait for Connor to get involved in the play. And, of course, that's exactly what he did. And, he gained his own, got good position, and then dropped the puck to Connor at a key moment. And one guy went with Leon, and Connor and Nurse came in 2-on-2, and the two guys both got magnetized by the puck. And McDavid, and he did the spin around. You don't often see this particular pass from him, but he did the spin around to open the passing lane, and Nurse just went and camped out at the bottom of the right circle. And when McDavid put it on his stick, Nurse slammed it into the net. And a completion of an absolutely great game by him. And if we had two good things, I would single him out as the other one. But I wouldn't talk about the goal. All three of these guys were big impactors for Edmonton tonight. But Nurse set up the first goal with a great stretch pass. He scored the second goal. He's the only guy who got 3 points in this game with a bad angle but wicked shot right under the crossbar after a strong Edmonton possession that made it 2-1. And all points aside, points from Nurse are a bonus, but I thought his play in the defensive zone was mostly excellent. He had a couple of struggles with Stetcher, who had a really rough night. And mostly when he played with Kulak, I thought Nurse was really strong, putting out fires and closing on guys, but not running around, just shutting stuff down. And I thought we saw basically his A game for most of this game tonight, and deserving scorer. He didn't get even a star for his 2-goal, 1 assist plus 3 effort. The 3 stars are McDavid, and McDavid.
Oh, well, there you go.
That.
I thought Nurse was the best player on the ice.
I thought McDavid had got first star because of the magnitude of his point, but that Nurse would certainly be number 2 with the bullet. But they didn't do it that way. Anyway, I'm sure he doesn't care. I'm sure they're all happy with the win, and I'm sure happy with the win. You sure don't want to get that 1,000th point in a loss. And that game kind of took a sideways turn, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. But in the end, here we are smiling on a nice 3-game win streak and a little bit, finally, I think, momentum.
The star should have been McDavid, Nurse, and Draisaitl. The 3 friends should have been the stars. Wedgwood might have been in there, but Kurt gave Nurse an 8. I would have given him a 9 or a 10 even. That was his best
Not
game.
A 10. I wouldn't give him a 10.
That was his best game.
But 8 or 9 for sure. I'm glad Kurt recognized that at least as a great game, because it was all of that.
Best game that I've seen him play in a long time. The kind of game that he played more regularly when he won the big contract. Kind of game he's capable of. And it's really interesting, Bruce. In the last 5 games, he's trended up significantly. His defensive play's tightened up, but it's really his offensive play that's taken off in the last 5 games. So in the first 10 games, he made 14 contributions to grade A shots, 1.4 per game. That's about what he averaged last year, 1.6 per game last year in the regular season. And he was down to 1 per game in the playoffs when he was so bad. So he was at 1.4 per game for the first 10 games. In the last 5 games, Bruce, he's averaged 3.2 major contributions to grade A shots per game.
Nice. How many
so his
tonight?
Passing game, last 5 games, 3.2 per game. I don't know how many tonight, like 3 or 4 tonight. Yeah. Let me just, I can tell you. So he's really, what do we got? 25. Well, the one actually that wasn't a grade A shot that he scored on, so it was grade B. So it was just 2 tonight. So he's really come on passing the puck, moving the puck, because I haven't noticed him rushing the puck. Like, this isn't coming from him trying to force things. This is coming organically, like within the flow of the game, which is so crucial for Nurse to let the game come to him a bit and to read the game correctly rather than try to force things. Tonight, though, he was very physical. shutting down plays. He cut out one pass.
4
was
hits,
really,
most on the team.
really dangerous pass into the slot. He cut it out. He hasn't been starfishing. He hasn't been going down. He's been staying on his feet. He's been moving the puck smartly and quickly, as he did on Connor McDavid's 1000th point. He's playing well, man, and he is, like, because he's paid so much, he is by definition, he's critical to the future of the team. But he just is anyway, because they need him to be Darnell Nurse, who plays a solid, sound hockey game, moves the puck well, and defends ferociously. He did that tonight. He's been doing that the last few games. And I joked on Twitter, it's ever since I ripped him on Oilers now that he's turned his game around.
That's how it works. Reverse curse. So what I'm seeing is that what the coaches have done managing deployment of their defense pairings has been a masterstroke, and it's really worked. And through the first 7 games, they had basically 3 distinct pairings each game. And Ekholm and Bouchard were carrying a ton of load. And then Nurse would line up on the second pair, playing, tough opponents, second line opponents with, let's be generous and say, third pairing caliber partners, mostly Stetcher and Dermott, because we've seen Emerson and Kulak throughout. And around game 8, the coaches started to work in a Kulak-Nurse tandem and giving them sort of the important shifts. I notice they play early in the period, late in the period, and then during the period, they'll also work in other shifts where Nurse will play with Stetcher and Kulak will play with Emerson, but it's like they've got 4 different pairings going on in any given game. And Kulak, let's give huge credit to this guy, who after years of being a third pairing all the time, pretty good third pairing defenseman, is now, stepped up, and he's now, he's the 4th highest cap hit on the blue line now that Cece's gone. They needed someone to step up, and would you rather have your $2.7 million guy come, or would you rather have your 3 $800,000 guys? Just using that simple measure of what caliber of players they are. And it was just a matter of getting these 2 lefties together and still figuring out a way to keep the other guys involved. Like, you can't just go down to 4 and leave the other guys rotting on the end of the bench, and they haven't done that. And so they've been finding a way to get, 12 or 14 minutes for the third pairing guys, mostly in third pairing situations. And Nurse and Kulak with these extra minutes and tougher minutes, they're both over 20 minutes a night. Kulak's had 20 minutes, I think 7 times in the last 10 games. And last year he had 20 minutes 4 times in 107 games. Like, counting the playoffs. They had 3 in the regular season and 1 in the playoffs where he played 20 minutes. He was just the third pairing guy, 16, 17, 18 minutes at night after night, steady as you please, but they've given him the extra workload. And he has responded. This is the best he's ever played since he's been here, and I'm really enjoying it. Not perfect. He was among the guys beaten on the tying goal, but he was also a guy who made a great back check tonight, 1-on-1 against, was it Forsberg? Anyway, he stood the guy up trying to break into the zone with his great wheels, and that's certainly the basis of his game. And they found a combination that's working, and to me, it's not a surprise that Nurse is doing better with a better partner. It just wasn't working the way they had it set up at first.
I would say, Bruce, I'm not disagreeing with you that Kulak is not playing really well right now. He is. Mm-hmm. But he has played really well 3 playoffs in a row. He's played this well 3 playoffs in a row. Not in the regular season. In the regular season, he disappointed because he didn't step up into the top 4 that year he had the chance, the year that they traded for Mattias Ekholm. That's why they traded for Mattias Ekholm, because Brett Kulak failed to step up into the top 4, and they just needed someone. So that was a disappointment. And I think it's probably why more fans weren't thinking. The obvious thing to think was, well, how about moving up that veteran third pairing defenseman who's crushed it in the playoffs 3 years in a row, and he can step up and be in the top four this year after they lost Broberg. Why wouldn't that be the first thing on all of our minds? It's because he failed previously. But I think it should have been, yeah. Well, lots of lefties. There's lots of NHL defensemen still who play on the wrong side.
Righties playing at the bottom of the lineup. They didn't want that, and I don't blame them for not wanting that.
No. But if they had thought this summer that Kulak's stepping up, then you don't go and acquire maybe Emberson on the right side. You're looking for the best possible defenseman, and you might pick up another lefty to play with Stetcher. You don't necessarily have to acquire another Josh Brown on the right side and Emberson on the right side. You think of it differently. So if they had that in mind right from the start when they lost Broberg, maybe they would have gone in a bit different direction. Although I like actually how Emberson's, I know that we're going to talk about him later making a mistake, but I like how Emberson's playing, and I think he is an NHL defenseman. So I think they have now, they've got their top four, they're figuring it out, and I think this is going to work. And I think it can work in the playoffs, which is, and I've made this point for almost a month now, if you have Kulak stepping up into the top four, your trade options are suddenly so much better for that. You don't have to get a top trade for a top four defenseman. You don't have to trade for a right shot defenseman. You can get a left shot defenseman, bring in a left shot defenseman. In fact, that's probably makes the most sense because Dermott, I think, is the least of the three bottom enders, Stetcher, Dermott, and Emberson. So you're replacing Travis Dermott, and you can get maybe a big guy who can kill penalties as your sixth defenseman. And now you don't have to give up nearly so much to get him. And it just makes things, this move of Kulak is critical. And I'm glad they've tried it. We were recommending that they tried it. Other people were as well, and they've done it. And it's great to see. It's great to see it's working. It is not, in the end, it's not surprising that it's working. The surprising thing is that we all weren't pushing it like from the middle of the summer, that this is what plan A should be actually for the Edmonton Oilers after they lost Broberg.
CC was gone.
Yeah, once Broberg's gone, Kulak, obviously, I think now in retrospect, and again, I'm saying why we didn't think of it is because he failed at it in the past. But man, here's a player who is in the absolute prime of his career and has shown in the playoffs 3 years in a row that he's ready for it. So no surprise here.
Well, tonight Kulak led the Oilers in even strength ice time. At least he led the defenseman.
Yeah.
And even strength ice time. And he doesn't have as big a role on special teams, but he's not doing these 16-minute games anymore. It was his 8th game of 20 plus minutes, and I think they're all in the last 10 games. I don't think he had any like that to start the season.
Yeah, he led the defense. Did he lead the team? Because didn't Draisaitl play one more second according to
4
more seconds.
At even strength, it was Draisaitl, yeah. And then in all situations, it was actually Draisaitl and McDavid and Bouchard. Who had a very quiet, I thought at times unengaged game with no shots. Played 25 minutes and 44 seconds, though, with good shot shares. So, I mean, Evan Bouchard, he can, in his sleep, I think he can have the puck moving in the right direction. He's got that knack, but it wasn't his finest hour. But
he did have a bad. He had a couple four major mistakes on grade A shots against Bruce in a game. They only gave up 7. So, and let's get to our bad thing here. The first goal is my bad thing. First goal against Nashville, gets it in the first period, 9 minutes in, and it was just a case of every single player being a sleepy, not intense, a step late in making their plays. The puck comes in the Oilers' end, and Ekholm just has this. It's coming around the boards, and Ekholm misses it on the boards. Just a mental error. Like, he's got to get his stick down, get that puck, make that play. Don't let it go by him. So then it goes to Bouchard, gets punched into the corner, and Bouchard gets it, and he throws it too hard around the boards. He doesn't make an easy pass for Nuge, but Nuge also doesn't have his stick against the boards. He's a little slow to get, the puck. He knows the puck's going to be coming around the boards to him. He's not right on the boards. And then he's slow to the point. He's kind of coasting out to the point as the puck gets put into the slot and deflected in by the legendary McCarron, who is not covered by McDavid, who is a step slow covering. So they were all of them just not intense, sleepwalking a little bit. And that's how Nashville, which is one of the worst teams in the NHL this year, gets up 1-0 on them in this game. What's your bad thing?
Yeah. Nuge, he went into the corner trying to get Bouchard's sloppy pass around the boards. And in looking at the replay, you're wishing he should have just sort of given up on it and just headed straight to the coverage. Because in chasing the puck into the corner, he violated Walter Gretzky's first rule, which is don't go where the puck is, go where the puck's going to be.
Get on the boards.
Yeah, and so he couldn't get back out and get into that lane. And anyway, it was, as you say, several very good players that kind of got caught sleeping at the switch on that goal. So my bad thing is the other goal. And this one just drove me absolutely berserk, David. I was so upset. I thought, we don't want to lose this 1,000th point game. And here they are hanging on grimly to this 2-1 lead in the third period. You know, not in sort of the commanding way they played the third period in Nashville when these teams last played. But kind of, the puck was getting more and more time in their own end. And finally, Edmonton got the damn thing going north. And they got it into Nashville, and they set up the cycle. It was like almost a full minute where the puck was in the Nashville territory, and they were doing the right things. They were making safe plays and keeping it down there, which is, ideally where you protect the lead with the puck in the other team's end, right? Ideally, you stick it in the net, but you don't really need to, as the famous coach Punch Shimlack said. When they've got the lead, we've got the goal. We don't need another one, right? The other, we need to protect what we've got. And the Oilers did not protect what they got. And I saw, to me, my eye, the major culprit on this play was, in fact, Ty Emberson, who was out there, 3 minutes left with a 1-goal lead to protect the lead. And as the cycling went up, he suddenly decided to step into the high slot, right in between the circles, top of the circles. So sort of 15 to 20 feet inside the blue line, and also sort of 42 and a half feet away from the boards that he should be covering as the right defenseman. And I'm not sure any of the Oilers expected him to do that. That's not his game. I mean, he scored 1 goal in his NHL career. And he's making his way here by playing his position, making smart plays, laying the really good body check. I'm liking a whole lot about his game. I think he's come a long way. But we'll follow this one under learning experience, because to me, he got greedy. Thought, I'm going to score and it's going to be all over or whatever. And so they set him up for the shot, and he didn't make a good shot. And not only was it not on net, it went right onto the stick of a Nashville guy beside the net. He managed to chip it up the boards to where Ty Emberson wasn't. But number 36, White, was sure there. Behind everybody, Cole Smith. And on the backtrack, you can say, and you're going to say, and I'm going to let you say it in terms of the lack of coverage from the forward, and there was 3 guys chasing, and there's just no way with a 1-goal lead in the dying minutes of the third period you should be giving up a breakaway under any circumstances. It just can't happen. And when you've blown, this is the fourth time that the Oilers have blown a 2-1 lead at home in the third period already this year. Like, finish out a game, guys, at home. And last game it was 3-1. But it was 2-0 against Carolina. They lost that in overtime. It was 2-1 against Vegas halfway through the third. They lost that in regulation. That was the worst one. These last 2, they managed to pull it out in overtime,
Yeah.
And the way the rules are, you don't lose a point. Like, if the rules were fair, you'd only get 2 points instead of 3 if by letting the game go to overtime. But it's not how it is. So you just sort of completely get away with it when you find a way to win it in overtime. But that's stressful, and you wind up, playing your big stars an extra couple of minutes each game. Yeah. Anyways, it was very frustrating goal to give up. I wasn't thrilled with how Calvin Pickard played it either, but the guy shot it up, and I think it hit his blocker and bounced down into the 5-hole and through. And,
Save would have been nice.
Yeah.
Bruce, that goal against was awesomely bad. That was so bad. And I know a lot of people were on Pickard afterwards, like make a save, and I get that. But you don't give up a breakaway. You don't give up a breakaway with 2 minutes, with 3 minutes left. You can't do it. So how does it happen? Emberson, I agree that Emberson made a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
He had 2 plays on that. 2 veteran D-man plays. If you're gonna, and I don't mind a defenseman playing on his toes, so to speak, being aggressive, but when he gets the puck, then he's got one job, and that's to get it deep. He's got to get that puck deep and put it behind the goal line. So either get a shot on net or put it deep, and he failed. He utterly failed to do that. The other veteran move was don't go for the puck and just back up. Just play it safe, back up. So it was one or the other, and he did neither. He did neither. So again, I don't mind him stepping up because I do think there was backup there. There was both Kulak and Nuge was moving into position behind him. So I don't mind him stepping up and playing on his toes and being aggressive. But then he's got to do his job and get that puck below the goal line, past everybody below the goal line. Anyway, he doesn't. And then he's kind of backing up, and he's thinking, oh, well, there's 2 guys behind me. There's Kulak and there's Nuge. I do not know what Ryan Nugent-Hopkins was doing. As Jason Strudwick loves to say, never trust a forward. He was just wandering off to the other side. Maybe he was thinking of going on a line change. He was wandering away. He's got to know. He's been here forever. He's got to know. A defenseman has just pinched in. Emberson has just moved in to make a play. My job now is to cover for him. What is he doing? That is terrible. I think it's way worse than what Emberson did, because at least what Emberson did was partially right. There was no right in Nugent-Hopkins because he started to. I think he was thinking line change because he started to skid off across the ice in the other direction instead of just covering for Emberson, and so he and Kulak are essentially almost stumbling into each other. They're both in the middle of the ice where this Cole Smith guy is breaking up down his side of the ice, and no one's covering him. And it was just, that is awesomely bad defense. That is inexcusable defense from a veteran forward, and weak defense from a rookie defenseman in Emberson. And Kulak might have been able, he might have been able to read the play and make up for their mistakes, but he was unable to do it. So he got beat as well. But you can't.
Smith got behind all 3 of them, man.
Yeah, you can't have that. Like, we've seen Skinner make mistakes. We've seen Draisaitl against Vegas. I think it was Draisaitl and Podkolzin, the forwards who made mistakes. These forwards in the Edmonton Oilers, they are the culprits in the third period as far as I'm concerned. They're the ones not shutting it down on defense, leaving the defensemen more exposed, and the defensemen haven't been able to cover up for them. But like the forwards, that's when the forwards got to think, okay, I'm not just a forward. I'm not just someone who scores. I got to make the right play here. I got to be smart, especially on the back check, and that's what we're not seeing, as I see it.
Jeff Skinner last game, when he got burned on the 3-2 goal, Edmonton was sitting pretty at 3-1.
Yeah.
And Skinner just come over the boards on his shift, and he made such a weak back check that he didn't get the puck or the man or any piece of the man, who went right through him and fired the shot that produced the rebound on the goal. And 12 seconds into his shift, it was over. He was sitting on the bench, and he sat there for the entire rest of the game, 7 minutes and 6 seconds plus overtime. Jeff Skinner never saw the ice again. If you don't think that's a message being sent to the coach, well, here's another message from the same coach. The second line right winger is out, and guess who didn't get promoted up to the second line to take his place? I'll tell you who, Jeff Skinner, because coach is not happy, and he's delivering a message. I like Skinner. I like a lot of what he can do. I thought he had a mostly decent game tonight, and he was certainly active and trying to make stuff happen, and that's what you want to see from this player. But the message from the coach was loud and clear, and he mostly stayed mostly he and Ryan were 10-11 forwards tonight, and they rolled different line mates through that fourth line as opposed to bumping anybody up the lineup. So he's in Chateau Chien just now, Jeff Skinner, and I'm pretty sure he'll get out of it. I mean, Chris Knobloch, he's a forgiving man. I mean, we all saw him bench Leon Draisaitl earlier this year after a dumb penalty. And he sat on the bench for a whole shift and a half. And then Knobloch put him back out there. And of course, Leon winds up winning the game for his team and getting the prize from the coach, the hard hat or the belt buckle or whatever the hell it is they give out now. But judicious benching, I'm all in favor of it. When there's a reason for it, and you sit a guy ride the pine for a bit, think about what you've done. I got no problem with it. And I want a strong coach that's not afraid to do that when it's appropriate, but doesn't go crazy. There's some coaches that go way overboard when they decide they're mad at a player. And I haven't seen Knobloch. I don't think I've seen him go way overboard about anything. He's just a real even keel guy, but he makes decisions, and he makes some hard decisions.
Yeah, Chateau Merde. All right. Where Jeff Skinner resides. I'd like to see him on the. I want to see him on the top line with McDavid and Hyman for a while, and see how he does there. Nuge is playing better.
He'll get a shot.
He'll get another shot at it. Nuge is playing better. Aside from that play that I didn't like tonight, his game seems to be coming around. Yeah, 2 plays. All right, Bruce, we're on to our numeros. What's your number?
Yeah, I'm betwixt and between. I kind of got 2 different things, but I think I have to defer to the big number, which is 1,000. Connor McDavid achieving 1,000 points in his 10th year of his stellar NHL career. 99th player in NHL history to do so. 4th player in Edmonton Oilers history to do so. The other 3 were all in the 80s or very early 90s that they got the 1,000th point. Wayne Gretzky, Jari Kurri, and Mark Messier, 3 Oilers legends, Hall of Famers. And they scored in a different era. I mean, Wayne Gretzky, he got his 1,000th point when he was 23 years old. He had 1,000 points in the National Hockey League at age 23. And I mean, just another league. The other guys, they were 29, and that, sort of 10 years of 100 points a year, which is similar to what McDavid's done, but he's there at age 27. In fact, he is the 4th youngest player in NHL history to do it. And the 3 guys that are ahead of him, Gretzky, Mario Lemieux, Mike Bossy, they were all beneficiaries of the open era that was hockey in the 1980s, when teams were scoring close to 4 goals per game as opposed to the current 3 goals per game. And McDavid has dominated this century in when you compare him to actual peers, Cap era, great goalie era, all this stuff, he's just far and away number 1. Like his per game points per game average 1.52, second among modern players, at least who've played it. I said I listed 500 games. Sidney Crosby, pretty good player, 1.25. And then that list looked kind of like a Gretzky scoring race. You have one guy way up here, and then a whole pack of guys down below, right? It's like 1.21, 1.18, 1.17, 1.15, and they're all sort of smashing together with this one guy way ahead of them, all of them. And that guy is Connor McDavid. He's also the first Oiler to achieve 1,000 points with a goal. The other guys all did it with helpers. And of course, the general average says, more. Well, Wayne himself said an assist is as good as a goal, and they give out 2 assists, up to 2 assists on each goal. So the odds are. But anyway, Connor slamming it in the net and sort of directly scoring the 1,000th point, that stood out. But it's a fantastic achievement. And to do it in under a decade, in the way the league has been throughout the parity era, the salary cap era, whatever you want to call it, scoring is not easy. Checking is hard, and goaltending is great, and coaching is devilish, and all of those things, so for him to achieve that in this amount of time, 659 games, absolutely fantastic accomplishment. Congratulations to you, Connor McDavid.
Time sure flies, Bruce. It just seems like yesterday that they won the golden ticket to draft the player, and boom, here we are. And it just speeds up. Of course, our perception of time does speed up as we get older, because each minute is less than like when we're young. Each year is, a tenth of our lifestyle when we're 10, or a tenth of our life when they're 10. But when we're like our age, it's like just a small fraction of our life. But it does just seem to speed up. And this is the McDavid era is spinning on by. So let's enjoy it. And I really enjoyed tonight's goal and tonight's game. And I just thought, well, after the Oilers scored that goal, they were just moving the puck around like magic in the second period. And they were unlucky not to get a bunch more goals in the second period, but they just really looked like they were confident and they were going to win this game quite handily, which is part of the reasons why that tying goal was so frustrating from Nashville. Bruce, Nashville is a fascinating team. They're quite an old team. Like, their core 12 players are pretty old. And they're right now the fifth worst team in the NHL. There's only a few teams below them, 4 teams below them. They've got 13 points in 17 games. They've got just 5 wins in 17 games. And it's interesting because this year, heading in to the season, they made a couple big signings in 3 big signings, and 2 of them were forwards in Stamkos, who is 34, and Jonathan Marchessault, who's 33 and will be 34 next month. So it's always now listen, these are good players, they could still turn it around. It's still early, but obviously the early returns on this are extremely disappointing. And it may speak to a team that tried to force things, that instead of stripping things down, just decided they were going to try to go for it. And I don't blame teams for doing that. Like, why not? It's you just never know. Sometimes these kinds of moves pay off. So far, they're not, though. And Steve Stamkos in 17 games has 4 goals, and he's minus 12. And Marchessault in 17 games has 3 goals, and he's minus 11. The worst minus player on Nashville is Colton Sissons, minus 13. Wow. So they've invested. They've got Marchessault at 5 years at $5.5 million, and Stamkos, I think, at 4 years at $8 million. So they've invested a ton of money.
To age 38, then, or more or less.
Players, these 2 players who are not entering they're leaving their peak years. Like this is the age when players normally start to slow down and can fall off a cliff. Some players just fall off a cliff at this kind of age. So, wow, they took a big risk.
Harry Trotz, eh? I mean, he may have overreached.
Yeah, and again, like, life's a gamble, right? Like, they're trying to win. He's sizing it up. He's GM. Like, he's not going to be GM forever. You know how many years do you have to be GM? 4, 5, 6. So he's thinking, what am I going to do? Tear it down? I have Roman Josi, who's 34. He's got a few more years where he's probably really good. And I've got some other veteran hockey players. Ryan O'Reilly, he's 33. I've got Gustav Nyquist, 35. My goalie, Saros, is, 29? So, there's lots of guys kind of, right, that are, what are you going to do? Trade those guys away, tear it down, and try to build through the draft? Or are you going to go for it? And he went for it. And it's just not looking like it's working out this year. Maybe it'll change, because sometimes players do all of a sudden come alive again. We've seen that. Like Jeff Skinner in Buffalo had 1 or 2 really crappy years, and then he started to play well again. So as a goal scorer, a point scorer at least, I can't comment on his 2-way play there. But maybe it'll work for Nashville, but right now it sure isn't. And man, it's really starting to get rancid there.
Well, the best news for them is they don't have to play Edmonton anymore this year. The season series is already
Yeah.
over. And I think maybe fortunate for Edmonton to get Nashville 3 times so early in the year when they're still getting their stuff together or not getting it together to this point. And they may be like last year, they came on gangbusters in the second half and the Oilers didn't have to play them. How about this year? I mean, for a 3-game series, it's already over after 17 games. So Oilers can bank the 6 points and move on, but they don't, future schedules, no more Nashville's. And we still haven't seen, some of the real top teams yet. So I think the schedule's still been slightly soft to this point, but
Yeah.
you got to win the games that are there to win, and they beat Nashville 3 times out of 3. So credit where due.
Their other top player, Philip Forsberg, is 30. So they were in this kind of interesting position where they had a really kind of decent group of players between the ages of 29 and 34. Forsberg, Yossi, O'Reilly, and Saros. And they probably thought, well, that's a pretty good group of players. Maybe if we just add, Brady Shea, who's 30, and these 2 high-scoring forwards, we can make a go. We can go for it. It's not working out yet. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, they're not the only team going old. I mean, I wrote a couple of days ago or last night, I guess, about Ryan Nugent-Hopkins being the first player in the history of the Oilers to play 14 consecutive seasons here. And yet somehow the 14-year veteran is the 5th youngest forward on the team.
How can that be?
they got 9 of their 12 are 30 plus. So,
well, I'm saying they need
really gone the veteran route, and they said goodbye to some good young players in the process of committing in that direction. And jury's still way out on that too.
They need 1 defenseman, Bruce, and I think they need 2 forwards for this team for the playoff run. And they might have those 2 forwards in Kajula and Philp already. It's possible that they already have them in the system. Although Philp's he's only got 3 points in 9 AHL games, but he looked really good in Edmonton. So, and he's more of a two-way. He's more of a two-way player anyway. So, but then they have to pick up another defenseman. Hopefully, they don't have to pick up a goalie. We'll see about that. There's lots of talk about the goalies.
Pickard, what an adventure that guy is, eh?
Some bad rebounds tonight and some
bad rebounds and some
with the puck. But he got it done.
Some weird positioning. He made 2 great plays with the puck. He made like a rink-length pass. And the build-up to the Nurse 2-1 goal.
That's right.
Where they were scrambling. He fired it from his own goal line all the way up to the blue line. And of course, he made that great pass in overtime that didn't happen. But he also coughed the puck up a couple of times and was scrambling around. And I'm going to sneak in my other number just because it's interesting. In his last 4 games, in which he's only given up 8 goals total, he gave up the first shot 3 games out of the 4. They scored on the first shot. And the other game, they scored on the second shot. So they've been running from behind in his games, and then they've kind of settled down, and he hasn't let in much more. And they've, he's now won 4. I think he's 4-2 on the season now.
Bad case of Cam Talbotitis. All right, Bruce. They play Saturday in Toronto.
They sure do. All Saturday, right. Toronto, Montreal Monday, Ottawa Tuesday. I think that's the order. 3 and 4 days in the hotbed of Eastern Canadian hockey.
Tough games.
So there'll be a lot of spotlight on the boys that just went to the Stanley Cup Finals, and of course that's of interest elsewhere in Canada because of that drought.
And the big story for me continues to be after that injury for McDavid, he just looks completely healthy. He's flying out there. So that's just fantastic news that he's not like coming back 2 gallons down.
He's coming around.
Yeah.
Now 9 points in the last 3 games. And, I would make the case his 3 best games of the season.
Agreed. Bruce, thanks for talking tonight.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, And in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.